Hey everybody, and welcome to the weekly scopes from the 19th to the 25th of January. Hi everybody, and welcome to this week's weekly scopes. If you've heard this before, you can skip, but this is just the intro on how I formulate these astrology weekly readings. I use astrology and my intuition to give you advice how you can practically use the knowledge of the stars and the planets and apply them to your life. So my weekly scopes are all based on GMT time and on Vedic Constellational Astrology. So now I'm just going to explain what Vedic Constellational Astrology is and how it differs from Western astrology. So the precession of the equinox is sort of like something that happens in astronomy and astrology, where the Earth's axis undergoes a slow circular motion over 26,000 years, and basically this means that this motion causes a shift in the position of the equinoxes, and also the calculation Vedic and Western astrologies use. So around 2,000 years ago, the tropical and sidereal Vedic astrology signs of astrology were aligned in the same position. So if the sun was in Scorpio in Vedic astrology, it was also in the constellation of Scorpio in Western astrology. But because of the precession of the equinoxes, this has caused a gradual westward sort of like drift of the tropical Western signs. So basically these signs and the Western signs shift 1 degree with every 72 years. So as a result of this ongoing shift, when Western astrology says the sun is in the constellation of Pisces, it's typically in the constellation of Aquarius. Still, this is because the degree, orb and the date for Western and Vedic astrology are 24 degrees 24 days apart. So in Western astrology, the sun enters the constellation of Pisces around the 19th of February each year, but actually the sun doesn't arrive into the constellation of Pisces until the 13th to the 15th of March each year, and Vedic astrology takes this into account because it's based on the fixed star positions, and Vedic astrologers use sidereal calculations. So as a result, Vedic astrology takes into account the actual positions of the constellations in the sky at any given time, and also considers the precession of the equinox, adjusting for the shift in the position of the equinoxes over time. But in terms of Western astrology follows the tropical zodiac, which is based on the seasons rather than fixed star positions. Western astrologers also do not directly account for the precession of the equinox in their calculations as well, so this results in slightly different calculations and interpretations that are given whether we're using Western astrology or Vedic astrology. So yeah, as I said, Western astrology uses specific dates. So every year, regardless of where the sun actually is at the sky, the sun moves into Pisces around the 19th of February. So yeah, this discrepancy, this misalignment between the tropical zodiac and the actual positions of the constellations has led to a discrepancy between Vedic astrology and Western astrology. So I consider the actual where the sun and the moon are and where Mars and Venus are at any given time, and this is how I formulate these sort of like weekly scopes. So yeah, thanks for listening to this, and let's dive into this week's weekly scope. Okay, so now I'm just going to explain what parallels and contra-parallels are in astrology, because I use them in my chart interpretation. So declination in astrology is the measure of how far a celestial body is, such as the sun, whether it's either north or south of the celestial equator. And the celestial equator is an imaginary line in the sky above the Earth's equator, which us astrologers use in our interpretation. So parallels happen when two planets are on the same declination. Either both planets are on the north side side, or either both planets are on the south side. And this alignment increases the influence of the involved planets, so it's similar to a conjunction aspect, as it amplifies their energy, making the effects of the planets more pronounced. Contra-parallels, on the other hand, happen when two planets are on the same declination, but one is in the north and one is in the south. So this alignment creates tension, which is similar to an opposition aspect, and it can lead to conflict, challenges and inner struggles between the energies of the planets involved. So contra-parallels highlight areas of friction or contrast in our lives, urging us to find balance between the opposing forces at play. When transiting parallels and contra-parallels happen, they can sort of like trigger significant events, shifting consciousness and periods of intense growth and transformation. So I look at these aspects closely during chart analysis to understand how planetary energies interact and influence each other during a specific time frame, to pinpoint key periods for personal development, relationship dynamics or career shifts, and other shifts like karmic shifts and stuff like that. Because I just find using contra-parallels and parallels gives me more depth in interpretation, so I use them. So contra-parallels and parallels in astrology serve as markers for potential challenges or breakthroughs, guiding us towards more self-awareness, love, acceptance, understanding, forgiveness for ourselves and others, and shifts in consciousness and growth. So overall, just a shift in our mindset if we allow for it. So parallels and contra-parallels just kind of like provide valuable insights into the complexities and nuances of the astrological interactions between planetary movements. So yeah, that's the end of what contra-parallels and parallels are. So this week we've got Mercury making a parallel to Pluto. So Mercury is in the constellation of Sagittarius, so mutable, fire, energy. Sagittarius is above the horizon in astrology, so it's wanting us to expand our minds, to think out of the box, to, using our logic and rationale rather than, concentrating on the, below horizon stuff, the third house stuff, which is opposite the ninth house where Sagittarius lives. So it wants us to use our thinking skills before we act or react this week. And Pluto's in the constellation of Capricorn, so again, authoritative energy, giving us that cardinal grounding energy to start and follow through on the plans that we want to do, our New Year's resolutions, going after what you want. Venus makes a parallel to Neptune, so Venus is in Aquarius, so this allows us to be a bit more detached and fixed in our thinking and emotions, but it brings that detachment to our emotions, and Capricorn does that, which Pluto's in. So we just need to watch out for avoiding our emotions, restricting other people's emotional expression, but with Neptune in Pisces, mutable water energy, it allows us to be flexible with making room for our own emotional outbursts or expression, or wanting to channel that into projects and stuff. So yeah, Mercury's parallel to Pluto allows us to really work on our communication this week, understand our thoughts and others' words and ideas. It allows us to be more clearer in our thinking, bringing mental clarity, helps us to uncover hidden truths, and gives us the capacity to think more wisely, more strategic, more logical, not reacting but planning, kind of like think chess this this week, think chess. So it's good energy for research, investigating, playing detective, or any plan, and anything, that allows you to think critically, especially working with technical, complex information. So good for working with coding, technical mechanics, engineering, stuff like that, going into that deep edit of content or writing. Mercury in Sagittarius, it gives us that drive to think deep, to want to explore philosophy, religion, spirituality, right? Or intellectual reasoning. And Pluto in Capricorn brings us that discipline to allow us to use this energy, this mutable fire energy, right? This battle between, the third house, because Mercury was the third house, right? And the ninth house, Sagittarius, right? So yeah, it can really, really help us, but negatively it can make us obsessive in our thinking, leading to power struggles in our communication, and just us misinterpreting, and misunderstanding other people's intentions, So, put your cards on the table. If you don't understand anything this week, especially with legal or other paperwork, the small print, ask for more time, or, don't be afraid to ask for help from someone who can help you, because feelings can become more intense, and the way that we communicate this week can just breed confrontation, because we can be conflicted within us as well. So psychologically we are challenged to confront our fears and our desires, and really self-reflecting, going within, introspection, thinking, listen to the thoughts that you have 24/7. What are they saying? Are your thoughts uplifting your life, or are they tearing down your life? And then thinking about the things that you can do day by day to slowly build up more positive thoughts, and actually dealing with the underlying problems that disturbing thoughts and feelings are the root of, which is usually unresolved psychological, emotional, spiritual trauma, which is usually due to abandonment, rejection issues, heartbreak, being numb, not being able to feel it, or shutting yourself off, or just feeling that you've got so much love to give and no one to receive it, stuff like that. So just thinking about the ways that you can engage in self-care. Venus's parallel to Neptune helps us to be more creative and romantic with ourselves and others, but it also brings a dreamy kind of haze clouding our judgment, making us not being able to see manipulations or deceiving others as well. It can positively allow us to appreciate the beauty in things more, and brings a sense of harmony to our relationships and a deeper connection to our inner self. And it allows us to nurture romantic connections, so supporting us in our creative plans as well and practices. It allows us to be more open-minded because of Venus being in Aquarius, right? And just be more innovative in the way that we give and receive love right now as well. And it allows us to tap into our intuition and imagination, but it can just bring like a shadow of confusion, causing chaos. We can just be too idealistic, ignoring them red flags as well, have unrealistic expectations in our relationships or reaching our goals. Remember, a lot of the time we make these New Year's resolutions to do better, we give up because we try to do too much. We give things up completely. But we have to get the mind right. But we have to understand that a lot of these toxic ways of relating to ourselves and others, or these habits, come from deep rooted, sort of repeated behaviours and thoughts that we've built up over time. So it's going to take time for us to heal them, to understand them, to dismantle them, and to build new, So spiritually, it encourages us to align our values with our higher self. So I told you this week is all about thinking with our, not rushing into things, having patience with ourselves and others. There can be us, sort of like escaping as well into drugs or other intoxicating substances, and just avoiding the harsh realities of our life, or become too overly sentimental about the past and seeing things like our exes and past experiences through rose-coloured lenses instead of the facts of the matters. We can really struggle between what's real right now, reality, and what's fantasy, and it wants us to look at the ways that we may be projecting our ideals onto others and ourselves rather than being who we authentically are, and seeing others for who they authentically are as well. So spiritually and esoterically, ultimately, it reminds us to balance our material and spiritual needs, the needs of our emotions and psychological needs as well, and to think of a plan that can help you manifest your dreams to highest potential while staying grounded in your reality and the reality of what you can really do versus what you think you can do. And that's a big lesson for me this year as well, because sometimes we can overpush ourselves. There's only 24 hours in a day, and yes, we need to make the most of them, but we need to remember that to avoid burnout as well, So now I'm just going to talk about, the supporting aspects of this week that happen day to day. So on the 19th of January, we have got the Moon's North Node going direct. We've got Mercury making a quintile to Neptune, and Mercury's in Sagittarius and Neptune's in Pisces. Venus bringing a conjunction to Saturn, and Venus is in Aquarius and Saturn is in Aquarius as well, so supporting each other. Mercury makes a sextile to Saturn, and Mercury, as I said, is in Sagittarius. Venus makes a semi-square to Pluto, and Mercury makes a sextile to Venus, and Mercury also makes a quintile to the Moon's North Node. So nice sort of energy, and the Moon's North Node is in Pisces, so these add to the week opportunities for constructive, productive actions and communication. Mercury's quintile to Neptune allows us to tap into our intuition and daydream a little, use our imagination, think outside of the box, which is one of the main things for this week. And this can lead to creative breakthroughs or breakthroughs in how you can resolve issues, daily habits, get outside of your comfort zone, stuff like that. This is a perfect, over the next few days, energy to use to work through and explore your dreams, and use any insights you gain from this to enrich your logical expression, and the way you think about things in general. Venus's conjunction to Saturn gives us, that discipline supporting the theme of this week, which is, focus. It also brings, a sort of serious tone to how we think about our finances and our relationships right now. So it can make us more committed, to take a sense of responsibility, to, let go of toxic relationships and hookups and cultivate, grow, develop, create more meaningful relationships, and also be more prudent in your financial decisions. Even if you have got finances, you still may think about, how you can cut back so you can ensure your long-term abundance and, support your long-term stability. The Moon's North Node going direct, pushes us to reflect on our life direction and our sort of personal growth and development, and it gives us a chance to align our destinies, allowing us to set intentions for the future, and supporting those New Year's resolutions as we start winding down. I know January's a long month, but February will soon be here. Not to hurry on the time, but just to remind you that time always moves forward, and it's best if you move with it, even though it can be painful at times to let go of the things that we want to keep hold of. So it allows us to, just be at one with the process of change. And Mercury sextile to Saturn and Venus allows us to work with all the different personality traits within ourselves, our weaknesses and our strengths, and work with others as well as, have meaningful conversations as well, and discussions around love, our resources such as time, energy, and money can really be fruitful right now and beneficial. And Venus's semi-square to Pluto adds to the challenges of this week, pushing those tensions in our relationships so there can be some conflict. It wants us to have more honest conversations, but we know a lot of the time us humans lie to each other because we're all afraid of truth, right? And it just allows for positive connections and visualize our goals as we sort of navigate both the positive and the tense negative repercussions of these energies. So on the 20th of January, Mercury makes a biquintal to Jupiter, so nice sort of energy. Mercury also leaves out of bounds, coming back in bounds, and the moon void of course starts at 4:23. So Mercury's biquintal to Jupiter happens when Jupiter's in Taurus, and of course Mercury's in Sagittarius. So this allows us to sort of explore unconventional solutions and use philosophical discussions, and we can just find ourselves feeling more inspired and have more of a knack for expressing our thoughts in a way that makes others understand us, and you can understand your own thoughts better right now as well. It's a good energy that supports us learning new things this week, teaching, sharing knowledge, as it allows our mind to connect with higher wisdom and insights are supporting this week's theme. The moon void, of course, for some of you can sort of give you the chance to pause and reflect, and for some of you it may be best to not start new things right now and do things like meditation, listen to music and some things that make you feel relaxed. Mercury's out of bounds allows us to sort of balance our creative instincts with realistic planning. When it's out of bounds, it can make us wild and give us lots of ideas, yes, but not give us the follow through. But Mercury back in bounds allows us to take practical actions and make our goals more tangible, to do practical actions to bring our reality, into fruition, into vision, On the 21st of January, Mars enters Gemini. The moon enters Libra at 4:34 a.m. The sun makes a semi-square to Saturn. Mercury makes a square to Chiron. The sun makes a conjunction to Pluto. The moon also enters its last quarter moon phase, so that you can see there's a lot going on. The sun also makes a semi-square to Saturn. Mercury also makes a square to Chiron. The sun also makes a conjunction to Pluto as well. Okay, so the semi-square between the sun and Saturn can make us just feel kind of a bit depressed. The weight of responsibilities, our routine can really push us down right now. And, if you are feeling frustrated, it's best to, rethink your goals and the structures, the daily habits, routines that you got supporting them. As I said, a lot of the time we think we've got more time in the day than what we have, and although we can waste a lot of time, we also need to be gentle with ourselves and think about breaking the long-term goals into small daily steps rather than the procrastinating thing most of us do. We forget something. If we've got a 12-month deadline, we forget it for 10 months, and then the last 2 months, if we're lucky, for some of us 2 weeks, we get all kind of burnt out because we're trying to do 12 months worth of work in 2 months. So think about the real time that it's going to take you to make changes in your life, but don't make the time it's going to take depress you or deter you, get in the way of you starting or continuing. The Sun semi-square to Saturn on the positive allows us to face our obstacles and challenges head on, and this can lead to us, building more resilience and emotional, psychological and spiritual stability, which is good for our personal awareness and growth. The Moon in Libra supports us bringing harmony into our relationships with ourselves and others, and it also supports us working with others as well. Mars entering Gemini allows us to be more curious and gives us a desire for different experiences, and we can just find ourselves more socially and intellectually stimulated right now, and it's a good energy for networking, starting new conversations and expanding our horizons. Mercury square to Chiron can make us just a bit more sensitive, especially into our communication, and it pushes us to be more aware and mindful of how we express ourselves to avoid misunderstandings. And the Sun makes a conjunction to Pluto, and this is intense energy, and Pluto's in Capricorn. This energy intensifies our motivation drives, allows us to transform and dig deeper into our issues and the relationship dynamics in our life. The Moon also enters the last quarter moon phase, so it allows us to reflect and pause and thinking about how we can honour our authentic self-expression and our inner guidance, and just love on ourselves and nurture ourselves and accept and forgive ourselves more. On the 22nd of January, the Moon enters via combustion at 11 a.m. and Venus makes a semi-sextile to Chiron at 1 minute past 11. So the Moon entering via combustion adds to the emotional and psychological intensity of this week and can bring more of a sense of urgency, so this can make us more impulsive, conversations can become more intense, but positively it supports us in confronting home truths, the things we don't really want to acknowledge about ourselves and others, allowing us to confront our own shadows or confront other people's shadow behaviours, especially if it's been toxic to our lives, and thinking about how we are toxic to ourselves and others as well, and really digging deep into those unresolved issues within ourselves and the issues with others we try to avoid. Sometimes we need to avoid them, right, but a lot of the time we don't. So you're just thinking about the way you can bring more health into your thinking, actions and relationships. It's a sort of like chaotic emotional energy, which pushes us to practice self-care and remain sort of like grounded, and to, do things such as meditation, journaling, and doing this can help us process our feelings that may come up during this time, and it can guide us towards clarity and empowerment. Venus's semi-sextile to Chiron supports us to heal ourselves and our relationships, bringing more compassion, empathy and understanding, and helping us repair our relationships, especially the one with ourselves, and really heal our psychological, emotional and spiritual wounds, allowing us to be more vulnerable and to confront long lasting and lingering emotional or other pain. The best use of this energy is to connect with yourself and those you love, and get support from friends or people like the Samaritans in the UK, like self-help, mental health helplines if you feel like you need it. Seek out support, in whatever form that comes for you is for you, so it really allows us to increase the bond with ourselves and others and nurture our emotions. So on the 23rd of January, Mars makes a sextile to Uranus. The Moon enters void of course at 3:13 p.m. Then the Moon enters Scorpio at 5:03 p.m. Mercury makes a parallel to Pluto at 6:10. Mercury also makes an opposition to Mars at 8:49 p.m. and Mercury makes a trine to Uranus at 10:08 p.m. So Mars' sextile to Uranus allows us to think innovatively, and it can bring unexpected opportunities to us, so it's a great energy to work on changing what needs to be changed. So, supporting this week's main theme of having the motivation to break free from stale routines and our comfort zone and explore new things. The moon void of course energy can make us doubtful, but slow down if need be. The moon in Scorpio allows us to self-reflect and connect on a deeper level. Mercury is parallel to Pluto, as I said at the beginning of this week. It's exact today at 8:10, but just allows us to push and face those home truths, And Mercury's opposition to Mars adds to the conflicts and misunderstandings that can come up this week. So it's important to avoid arguments, this week and over the next few days, because this amplifies this energy. Because Mercury's trying to Uranus supports us being independent and wants us to be free, right? We can do this in a negative pushy way, but the best use of this energy is to think of new solutions to solve the problems in your life, and using this energy to transform what needs transforming and being open to new things. On the 24th of January, Mercury enters Capricorn and the moon leaves Via combustion, so it allows us to be practical and strategic in our thinking and action, supporting that extra focus and us being disciplined, sticking to our guns, but not isolating others too much where it affects our relationships negatively, just being like baby any time out and stuff like that. It allows us to be more organized and to speak with more clarity and precision, and set long-term goals and make decisions that we need to make as well in a methodical, logical way, and it allows us to be more serious in our career decisions, financial plans, and our personal responsibilities as well. It allows us to be serious. It wants us to have those serious discussions, make those serious changes, but negatively we can be too pessimistic and inflexible in our thinking and action and be too critical, and this can get in the way of creativity and solving problems and us being spontaneous. But ultimately, this week is about thinking outside of the box, being open to new ideas, and trying to do our best to not be burnt out and be overwhelmed by our responsibilities and the sense of pressure the month of January can bring, after the feast of December. So as I said earlier this week, the moon was in Via combustion, but it's leaving it. So this brought, emotional turbulence, and Via combustion means that the moon's between the 15th degrees of Libra and the 15th degree of Scorpio. So it's normally there for about 2 to 3 days. So now as this pressure releases, we can feel less anxious, we can feel like we are in a better space to confront our feelings, and allow ourselves to be more emotional, resilient and flexible. And it just supports us in letting go of old patterns and start new beginnings, and set those intentions, put into practice, the steps we need to take to meet our intentions and goals, On the 25th of January, the moon enters its balsamic moon phase at 9:13 p.m. Venus makes a parallel to Neptune at 9:21 p.m. Mercury makes a sextile quadrant to Jupiter at 9:44 p.m. The moon enters void of course at 11:34 p.m. and Venus makes a trine with Mars at 11:54 p.m. So the balsamic moon allows us to reflect and find closure, encouraging us to release what no longer serves us. It allows us to plans for the upcoming new moon next week, and we can feel more creative and more sensitive. So this can get in the way of emotional connections, but can be used to, put our feelings into creative expressions, painting, singing, dancing, gaming, whatever being creative means to you. It allows us to have more compassion, supports us having more meaningful relationships as well, and doing things that really feed and support our highest goals and feeds our soul and high consciousness. Mercury sextile quadrant to Jupiter brings communication challenges, adds to the misunderstandings that can happen this week because we can overpromise or we can miscommunicate, say things we don't mean. So think before you act and react. As we end this week, this energy supports us along with Venus is trying to Mars to be more passionate and motivated, express our affection to ourselves and others, start or continue those projects that require our heart and our motivation. Just use this energy to practice active listening to resolve the conflicts the other aspects of this week may have caused in our relationships, to do things that are meaningful as we close down the week. So yeah, that's the end of the weekly scopes from the 19th to the 25th of January. I'm Amani, your holistic karmic astrological life coach. Take care and see you next time.